Welcome to English 9, determining the relevance and truthfulness of the ideas presented in the material viewed. Quarter 3, Week 3. I am Mr. Nelpon Sambalod and I'm your teacher for this course. Let us find out how are the images related to our lesson, determining the relevance and truthfulness of the ideas presented in the material viewed. So the first image has a concept map featuring the word relevance. So for us to determine the relevance of ideas presented in a material viewed, we should be able to guide ourselves on how can we check whether the material is relevant to us. So how are we going to do so? We should ask ourselves of the following questions. Does it solve our problem? Does it resonate with us? Does it bring us closer to our goals? Does it give us new hopes? Does it arouse our curiosity? Or will it simplify our lives or help us to finish our task faster? Or will it brighten our days? Or does it complete our lives? Or does it fulfill our needs? So if those questions, one, two, or three or more questions surrounding the word relevance will be answered or can be answered, the material or the ideas that can be found or presented in the material viewed, then that material has the so-called relevance in it. The second image has something to do with a magnifying glass. So, what's the relation of the magnifying glass with the lesson determining the relevance and truthfulness of the ideas presented in the material viewed? So, talking about determining the truthfulness, of course, using a magnifying glass, we will be checking on the details, the information that are presented in the material. So aside from checking the details, the information, the factuality of the information in the material, of course, we should check on the source of the material. Is it really an authority who presented the information in the material? So let's find out more. What is this determining the relevance and truthfulness of the ideas presented in the material viewed as we go on with our presentation or with our discussion. The most essential learning competency or MELC that we are going to tackle for this week is MELC 7, determining the relevance and truthfulness of the ideas presented in the material viewed. And we have the following enabling competencies: interpreting the message conveyed in the material viewed and analyzing the information contained in the material viewed. We are living in a visual world. The advent of the internet and the digital revolution, the widespread availability of mobile devices that enables us to easily capture still and moving images, the appearance of video sharing sites such as YouTube, and the proliferation of social media networks such as Instagram and Facebook, with users primarily uploading visual content, have all led to an unprecedented increase in the number of people using the internet. So since it is stated clearly there that we are living in a visual world, then therefore it's only a must that we can determine the relevance or truthfulness of the ideas presented in each material that we are viewing. So how can we do it? So the first thing that we need to do is to identify what kind of text we are viewing. So the majority of texts young people are encountering and creating are multimodal. So a multimodal document is one in which the meaning is conveyed by multiple modes such as written text, audio, still images, moving images, motion, use of space, and so on. Photos, slideshows, and websites are examples of digital multimodal text, while theater, storytelling, and dancing are examples of live multimodal text. Since we are exposed to many materials, it's important that we know what kind of materials we are viewing. For definitely, each material conveys its own meaning, and it can be presented in so many ways, just like what are stated there, that it can be in multiple modes such as written text, audio, still images, moving images, motion, use of space, and so on. So after figuring out what kind of material we are viewing, then let's categorize what type we are encountering. As what is being said there, if it's a photo, slideshow, and website, they are what? Digital multimodal text. And if we are dealing with theater, storytelling, and dancing, then they are live multimodal text. So after knowing what kind of materials we are viewing, then this is the time for us to figure out what are the truthfulness, or it's time for us to determine the relevance or truthfulness of the ideas presented in those materials. So look at the illustration below and answer the guide questions that follow. Write your answer in your pad paper. So we have here an image of a boy who seems to have everything, a very advanced boy when it comes to having gadgets or technology, wherein he has he has a desktop, a cell phone, an email, and the means of connecting to the world via internet. So according to the boy, I've got a cell phone, email, and voicemail. But why am I so lonely? So let us answer the questions that follow. First question. This man has all the modern gadgets, yet he's still lonely. Why do you think this is so? So, what could be the answer? As what I heard from the student, nothing beats the personal interaction with your friends or the people whom you love, that even though you have all the gadgets or everything or means for you to be connected with them, still they prefer dealing with their friend or loved ones in person, and not just contented of having a contact with them via internet or virtual, just like what is happening nowadays due to the existence of the COVID-19 pandemic. So it brings loneliness to a person whenever he or she cannot have personal interaction with the people whom she loves or likes being with. Number two, what is the general truth in life depicted? So looking at the image again, remembering the boy having there the desktop, the cell phone, the email, then the voicemail. What is the general truth? That the advent of technology, that the presence of technology alone doesn't bring 100% happiness to a person. It's the same with what? Having everything in life when it comes to material things doesn't assure 100% happiness to a person. Okay? So let's continue. We have there the image of the Mona Lisa painting. So what do you have in mind as you look at the image? Correct? Maybe by now you are having in mind that that painting is drawn by the well-known painter Leonardo da Vinci. It has its uh, smile that really awakens curiosity of people. Also, Mona Lisa has the eyes that seem to be looking at a person wherever the person goes. Okay, and aside from those, maybe you are aware also that Mona Lisa is said to be the most expensive painting in the world, amounting to almost $1 billion. So let's find out how is that painting Mona Lisa related to our lesson determining the relevance and truthfulness of ideas presented in a material view. Let's see if that Mona Lisa is really what? Relevant to us, or it has truthfulness in it pertaining to the ideas that are presented in it. So most of the time, you are asked to read, write, speak, and listen in various lessons in the classroom. But what about the fifth skill? So you know already that reading, writing, speaking, and listening are the first four macro scales. But what about the fifth macro scale? How is it called? Five, four, three, two, one. Correct. It's called viewing. So what is viewing? Viewing is defined as an active process of attending and comprehending visual media, such as television, advertising, images, films, diagrams, symbols, photographs, videos, drama, drawings, sculpture, and paintings. So, viewing is defined as an active process of attending and comprehending visual media. You have there the key terms: active process, attending, comprehending visual media. So it is necessary to remember that the viewing process is just as crucial as the listening and reading process. You should be aware that effective engaged viewers go through the following steps. So again, you should be aware that effective engaged viewers go through the following steps. So what are the steps when it comes to viewing? We have the previewing. You prepare to view by activating your schema, the prior knowledge you bring to the study of a topic or theme, anticipating a message, predicting, speculating, asking questions, and setting a purpose for viewing. So just like when I ask you about that image there, maybe you activated your schema regarding your prior knowledge about the painting Mona Lisa. So that is the first step when it comes to the processes or steps in viewing. The second step is during viewing. You view the visual text to understand the message by seeking and checking understanding, making connections, making and coming, confirming predictions and inferences, interpreting and summarizing, pausing and reviewing, and analyzing and evaluating. Your understanding should be monitored by connecting to your schema, questioning, and reflecting. So again, the during viewing, you what? You view the visual text to understand the message by seeking and checking understanding, making connections, making and confirming predictions and inferences. So, as you proceed to during viewing, you now try to make connections. So, remember our lesson about making connections, connecting to self, connecting to text, and connecting to the world. So, you do them during the viewing step. Okay? Wherein you what? Your understanding should be monitored by connecting to your schema, questioning, and reflecting. So you are trying your very best to figure out what does the image would like you to get from it. It's the same with the experience of attending or going to an art exhibit. Then you're standing in front of an abstract painting. So you don't just stand there, look at it and leave and proceed to the next painting. But instead, as you stand at it, as you do the previewing, you get curious about it, you try to activate your schema about what do you know about that painting. But since you are already hooked by that painting, you will be staying for a little bit longer and would be trying to figure out what does the abstract painting would like to convey. And as you do that, you are experiencing the during viewing process or step. The last step is the after viewing. You are given opportunities to respond to visual text in an intimate, critical, and creative way. You respond by reflecting, analyzing, evaluating, and creating. So just like that image Mona Lisa, so how can be the after viewing be activated? So maybe after viewing the painting Mona Lisa, and even though you already walk away from it, still you are trying to think of the style that you can have also, or you can use also, or that you will be having as you do your own painting. Because that's what you have realized or understood as you look at Mona Lisa. As you look at it, as you activated your prior knowledge, you painted it and realized that indeed Leonardo da Vinci has its own style when it comes to painting. Then, after viewing Mona Lisa, maybe you have realized also that you should come up with your own style when it comes to painting. And as you experience that, then you are already on the third step of viewing, which is after viewing, wherein you are given opportunities to respond to visual text in an intimate, critical, and creative way. You respond by reflecting, analyzing, evaluating, and creating, just like the example that I mentioned, wherein by now you would be creating your own style on painting. Okay, so as you experience those, you are on the third step of viewing. So again, viewing is defined as an active process of attending and comprehending visual media. So indeed, an active process, because you will go through pre-viewing, during viewing, and after viewing. So there are three steps that you will be encountering as you do the so-called viewing. Okay, let's have the next slide. Learning task 1. Look at the picture. What could be the cause of this phenomena? Write 3 to 5 sentences about it. Write your answer in your pad paper. So looking at the picture, you have the word climate change, and the images surrounding it are the effects of climate change. Looking at that picture, previewing, you activated your knowledge about what is climate change. Then during viewing, you try to make connection among the images to the given word climate change. The after viewing, by now, you are thinking on how you will stop climate change after realizing what could be the effects of that climate change to human beings. Okay? So that is learning task 1. Learning task 2. Visualize yourself in an emergency situation. How do you respond to such? Who do you call for help? For each critical situation below, indicate your life-saving solution. Cite your opinion for giving such a solution. Write your answers in your pad paper. So the first critical situation in the table is your neighbor's house is on fire. So the life-saving solution, of course, the first thing to do is to call for help, call the attention of your neighborhood, and if ever there's someone who did it, then you call the fire station department for them to arrive in your place and extinguish the fire. Number 2, a woman's purse is snatched in front of you inside a jeepney. So what could be your life-saving solution? Since you've noticed that the victim of the snatching is not fully aware of it, you will be calling the attention of the victim or of the other people inside the jeepney. So you have to be careful on calling the attention of the victim or of the other passengers in the jeepney, or else if the snatcher has a deadly weapon, then you might be the one to be hurt instead of the victim of the snatching. So again, the life-saving solution would be calling the attention of your fellow passengers, particularly the one being snatched. Number 3, somebody in fear and in panic calls on your cell phone asking for your help. So what could be the life-saving solution? As you answer the phone and you heard someone who is really in panic and asking for your help, then how are you going to solve it? So as you answer the phone, then you heard the person whom you're talking to being nervous or really panicking, then you ask that person to calm down, to relax, breathe in, breathe out, inhale, exhale. So after that, then you ask, what's the matter? How can I help you? And after doing so, you call for possible people who can go to the place of that person or of that uh, or of that person who's experiencing it, or if you can, then you may go there personally. Okay. Number 4, your mother complains of dizziness and falls to the ground unconscious. So what could be the life-saving solution? Of course, you attend to your mother, you check on the pulse if your mother's still breathing, After doing so, noticing that your mother is still pulse, then you can get the one being used by other to be smelled, so that the the victim or the mother will be conscious again. Or you can call for someone's help and bring your mother immediately to the hospital if your mother is unresponsive to the first aid that you have administered. Number five, a hazardous chemical in the chemistry lab spills, producing smoke and a suffocating scent. Of course, the first thing to do is to inform everybody about the smoke and the suffocating scent. And as what you have learned from your laboratory teachers, you open the windows, the door, so that you will not be suffocated by it inside of the chem lab. Or the best thing to do is to inform the teacher about it so that the teacher can instruct the entire class. Okay? Then that's it. So those are the life-saving solutions for the following critical situations. And of course, I would like you to think for your very own life-saving solutions dealing with this activity. So check the Google Classroom. Learning task 3. Study and analyze carefully the given situations. Write your answer in your pad paper. So case number 2, a neighbor has recommended this bottle of medicine to your brother. Scan the information and decide if there is a need to warn your brother about the medicine or not. So since the image shows a bottle that has instructions written in other language, it's best that you will not be giving it to your brother. You will not be allowing your brother to take that medicine. Instead, you ask for someone who can read it, or you ask a doctor if it can be taken, or your brother can drink that medicine. Okay? Number 2, case number 3. You and your friends have been waiting for the sequel of your most favorite movie series. However, you found out that the movie is now restricted to an audience 18 years and above. Your friends who are all under 18 presented fake IDs just to see the movie. Would you go with them? Of course, you will not go with your friends, and you will be reminding them, since they have just shown uh, fake IDs for them to see, for them to convince you that they will be watching, that you should also watch the movie and you can do the same. Then just inform them that it's a not it's not a good doing, because you will be violating the law and you might be caught. And maybe just convince them to wait for another year for you to be allowed watching it in cinemas, since it is rated 18. Okay, let's go on. Let's have learning task 4. Read the poem The Telephone by Edward Field. Interpret the message of the poem. Answer the guide questions on the table that follows. So write your answers in your pen paper. So before we read the poem The Telephone by Edward Field, let's check on the image. So what are those? The images show the evolution of telephones. Okay. From the old model of telephone going to the latest one, which is the use of cell phone. And not just cell phone, that is iPhone 12. Okay, so now let's read the text The Telephone by Edward Field. My happiness depends on an electric appliance, and I do not mind giving it so much credit. With life in this city being what it is, each person separated from friends by a tangle of subways and buses. Yes, my telephone is my joy. It tells me that I am in the world and wanted. It rings and I'm alerted to lover gossip. I go comb my hair, which begins to sparkle. Without it, I was like a bear in a cave, drowsing through a shadowy winter. It rings, and spring has come. I stretch and amble out into the sunshine, hungry again as I pick up the receiver for the human voice and the good news of friends. The Telephone by Edward Field. So let's proceed to the next slide for us to answer the questions and at the same time interpret the poem. Let us proceed on interpreting and at the same time answering the questions regarding the poem, the telephone. So we have here a table containing the lines from the poem and the guide questions. So let's have number one. My happiness depends on an electric appliance and I do not mind giving it so much credit. So what is the predominant feeling of the speaker in the lines? Why does he feel that way? So of course, happiness and what? The feeling of happiness and being grateful to the existence of that electric appliance. So he's very much happy on having that electric appliance, the telephone, and accordingly he doesn't mind giving it so much credit because he's very thankful on the existence of that electric appliance, which is the telephone. Number two, lines from the poem. With life in the cities being what it is, each person separated from friends by a tangle of subways and buses. So why are friends disconnected? So friends become disconnected because of busy schedule, of the hectic schedule that the friends need to go to work, need to go to schooling, need to travel, need to go to other places. But again, there's no problem dealing with it that they will be disconnected personally because there's a telephone that can make them connected. Number three, the lines from the poem. Yes, my telephone is my joy. It tells me that I am in the world and wanted. It rings and I'm alerted to love or gossip. I go comb my hair, which begins to sparkle. So how does the speaker justify his joy of having a telephone? You have there the what? The statement, the evident statement saying that the telephone is his joy. Also, he says that indeed the telephone is his life because the telephone makes him connected to the world and makes him feel that he is needed by other people in his life. It rings and I'm alerted to love or gossip. Also, the speaker justify his joys of having a telephone because it makes him aware or informed regarding what's happening around him. So that's the typical advantage of a phone nowadays. It makes you connected to the world. Then I go comb my hair, which begins to sparkle. So you have there the clear statement of the speaker that that telephone signals the happiness in his life. So as if what after waking up in the morning before doing anything else, the first thing being done by the speaker is to check on his telephone. The number four, the lines from the poem. Without it, I was like a bear in a cave, drowsing through a shadowy winter. It rings and spring has come. So what value do people give to the telephone when he has the access to it? So the people really labeled it as a very important gadget because it's given that the telephone gives life to a person, adds life to a person. So people nowadays do really greatly value the existence of telephones in their life, according to World Health Organization, as if it's what having an internet according to the World Health Organization, having an internet is already what a basic necessity. And how can you enjoy the internet if you do not have a phone? So you must have first a phone before you connect to the internet. So as if it's already what being valued as a basic necessity nowadays. Okay, number five, lines from the poem. I stretch and amble out into the sunshine, hungry again as I pick up the receiver for the human voice and the good news of friends. So what does the speaker hunger for? Is he capable of connecting to the world? Explain. So what does the speaker hunger for? Hunger for, of course, it's the ringing of the telephone. It's the idea that someone has texted or called or will be calling him, and is he capable of connecting to the world? Yes, because you have the what? I pick up the receiver for the human voice and the good news of friends. So he's connected to the world by having the telephone because he's able to be informed regarding what's happening to his friends or what's happening around him, even though the happening or the friends are really far, but still with the existence of telephone, then the speaker has made himself fully aware of what's going on around him and what's the updates on the lives of his friends. So indeed, the through the telephone, the speaker is connected to the world. Okay, so that's for the answering of the guide questions dealing with the poem, the telephone. Learning task 5. Dialogue between a student and her mother. So consider the situation as depicted in the picture. A student receives academic recognition from the school. How do you think a supportive parent would speak to the child? Create a dialogue between a student breaking the good news about her academic achievement to her mother. So you will be checking your Google Classroom regarding this activity. Look for the Google Form link because it's the activity that you will be doing for today. So I would like you to write a dialogue, a 10-sentence dialogue, a 5-pair dialogue between the mother and the daughter. So you will be having their 10 sentences. So be creative, okay, on doing the activity. So for you to be guided, on the next slide, we have the rubric for it. Okay, I'll read it for you. Short dialogue rubric. So we have the criteria, content. You will get 5 points if the content and dialogues are coherent and relevant to the given illustration situation. For creativity and clarity, another 5 points. Ideas are well organized. Dialogues contain many creative details and show clear understanding of the illustration situation. And last criterion would be grammar, punctuation, and spelling. So you will get 5 points if there are no grammar, capitalization, spelling, or punctuation errors. So I hope that you will follow the rubric for writing the dialogues dealing with the previous slide containing the activity on the dialogues between the mother and daughter. So you apply also your learning about the steps on viewing. So the previewing, during viewing, and after viewing. So I want to see your dialogues. I want to see your dialogues communicating ideas coming from the steps of viewing. So as you viewed that illustration, having the mother and daughter talking, then the ideas dealing with the steps on viewing will be reflected or will be included in the dialogues of yours. Okay, so I hope you can do it, and you will enjoy this activity. Remember, therefore, viewing is important because as you are dealing with mainly multimodal texts, you need to understand them and to become more effective, active, and critical viewers to be able to participate fully in society. So as you always make yourselves busy on checking the relevance and truthfulness of materials or of the ideas presented in the materials that you view, the more you make yourselves a knowledgeable person, and as you transform yourselves on being such, then the more you can fully participate in the society because you know a lot, you can connect to the people around you. So you make yourselves a version also of this tree that has many branches and fruits representing the knowledge it has gained as it grows. Okay? So again, remember that viewing is important because as you are dealing with mainly multimodal text, you need to understand them and to become more effective, active, and critical viewers to be able to participate fully in society. Okay? Let's have the next slide. Assessment. Read the following statements. Decide whether you agree or disagree on the given statements. Write A if you agree and DA if you disagree. Write your answers in your pad paper. So number one, you gain expertise and skills for analyzing and evaluating visual text and multimodal text that use visuals through viewing. Agree or disagree? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Agree. Number two, a multimodal text is one where the meaning is communicated by more than one mode. Example, written text, audio, still pictures, moving pictures, gesture, use of space, etc. Do you agree or disagree? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's agree. Number three, digital multimodal text can include, for example, theater, storytelling, and dancing. Disagree or agree? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's disagree because that should be live multimodal text. Okay, number four. Post viewing prepares you to view by activating your schema, anticipating a message, predicting, speculating, asking questions, and setting a purpose for viewing. Do you disagree or agree? Agree or disagree? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's disagree. It should be previewing. Let's have number five. Viewing helps you build the expertise and skills to interpret and assess visual text and interactive text that use visuals by slowing down, reflecting, and thinking about what you are saying. Agree or disagree? 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. It's agrees. Okay, done with the assessment portion. I hope that you have learned a lot from our discussion today. Let's have the second to the last slide. Reflect on what you learned on this lesson about viewing by completing the statements below. Number one, my journey through this lesson enabled me to learn that there are three steps whenever viewing a material, and they are the pre-viewing, during viewing, and post-viewing or after viewing. I also learned I also learned that it's very important to always determine the relevance and truthfulness of ideas presented in a material viewed. So number two, it made me realize that I should be particular with the ideas presented in a material view. I should always check on its relevance and truthfulness. Number three, I therefore commit to always check and determine if the materials that I'm viewing are containing ideas that are really relevant and truthful. Okay, so check your Google Classroom regarding this activity. I would like to hear from you also regarding what you have learned from our discussion today. Thank you. Have a good day and God bless us all.